right? So we're going to be talking this week about the Tao, right? And what does it mean to be in the Tao? Because we can't activate a planetary awakening in love through unique self symphonies unless we actually realize and we do so and we engage from within the Tao. As Christina Amlon said so beautifully in the recapitulation from last week, there's no political will outside of the Tao. And as Krista wrote, right, in the weekly mailing, again, recapitulating, visioning the depth of this understanding that we've been talking about since last week. Political will is only activated from a sense of value. When values are violated, we stand for the value. When we yearn to fulfill a value, right, we activate political will. Right? Political will means a value needs to be fulfilled. A value has been violated. And therefore, we have to activate political will. Remember the American Revolution, right? Those of you who are familiar, you can take a look at the French Revolution, those of you in France when the Bastille fell, or right, the Dutch, right, fight for freedom, right? Let's try and find it. So let's just take the American Revolution. The Americans grew cotton. And then the law was they had to sell that cotton to a monopoly, which was the British West India Company. And the British West India Company would buy that cotton and then spin it into cloth and then sell that cotton back to the colonists. And the colonists said, this is a violation of value. It's not an economic value issue. That's an expression of it. But why should the goods created by us be forced to be sold to you, moved across the ocean, you then make it into cloth and then sell it back to us, right, at astronomical profit? That doesn't make sense. That's a violation of our relationship to the means of production. That's a violation of fairness. It's a violation of goodness. There's something untrue about it. It's not beautiful. And that was the basis of the American Revolution. The Bastille falls in France because there's a realization of value, of liberty, equality, fraternity. Political will is only activated when we're actually in the Tao, we're in value, and value lives in us. And that value is not a social construction of reality. It's not a fiction. It's not an imagined construct, right? As our postmodern friends like to talk about. No, value is real. Value evolves. Value is in the Tao. The Tao is eternal, but eternal doesn't mean unchanging. Eternal means not it's like that always throughout time and it never changes. Eternal means that which is beneath time, that which is beneath place. So the eternal is the timeless time and the placeless place. So the eternal Tao doesn't mean the Tao never changes. The Tao is rooted in eternal structures that are evolving. That's part of our code. The eternal Tao is the evolving Tao. So let's take the next step now, friends. We're about to go into prayer. And what is our prayer that we do every week? The holy and the broken hallelujah. And I want to try and understand this in terms of the Tao. Right? So I'm gonna put our code together with prayer, and we're gonna make our little conversation, our holy conversation before prayer, part of our conversation, Jacqueline, right, on the Tao. So let's see if we can find it. Okay, so what do we say? We say, right, there are two core existential risks, right? The first is the death of humanity, right? And the second is the death of our humanity. Right? The death of our humanity begins when we think we have stepped out of the Tao, right? We live in the Tao, right? To actually step out of the Tao is impossible, but to think we've stepped out of the Tao is in many ways the greatest existential risk of all, right? The Tao that can be measured is not the Tao. The Tao that can be coded is not the Tao. But words, codes, and measurement point to the Tao, but they're not the Tao, but they point to the Tao, right? The eternal Tao is the evolving Tao. So what is the Tao? Okay, so we talked about this last week, remember? We said, right, if we decide to sell Simona, I'm hoping Simona's with us this week, but I'm not going to look, right? But Simona, we decide to sell Simona, right? We said, we're not going to sell Simona. Remember, who remembers that? Why are we not going to sell Simona? Even though we want to raise $1 billion, We want to raise $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion because we need to actually move the needle, right? And we need to be able to actually raise the funds to actually articulate, right? Right? Xochitl says, I remember selling Simona, right? And we said, oh, right, she's priceless, right? She's immeasurable, right? So why we're not going to sell Simona? We're not going to sell Simona because even if we would rake in a fortune that will allow us to fund the entire great library and actually penetrating, right, the great library into the depth of culture, which would in turn have enormous positive effect on millions of lives, we can't make that quantified, algorithmic, game theoretic move because Simona's value is immeasurable, irreducible. That's the Tao. The Tao is the realization that my own individuated value, my instrument in the Unique Self Symphony, has immeasurable worth, has irreducible value, has infinite quality, right? It's irreducible, indestructible, and eternal, right? That's the nature of that value. That is what it means to be in the Tao. That means that the human being, the personhood of the human being, that personhood is not quantifiable. That personhood is priceless beyond all measure. That only makes sense in the Tao. That's not the individual who's a 19th century, construct developed by political philosophy, or it's a 20th century Sartre expression about the importance of first-person voice, as it's often stated. No, that's not what it is. Sartre was the apostle of cosmic meaninglessness. And although he talks about the beauty of first-person voice, right, he basically says that's just our assertion in the face of a meaningless cosmos, and it also is meaningless. That's not what the Tao is saying. The Tao is saying is that ecstatic urgency to assert my first-person voice, and then to have my first-person voice be not isolated or alienated or dissociated or narcissistic, but that my first-person voice is my unique instrument in the Unique Self Symphony. That's the Tao. That's my intrinsic nature. That's intrinsically valuable. That's intrinsically precious, right, beyond all measure. That's what we mean by the Tao, right? The Tao is all the different ways, right, that we experience, right, this sense of immeasurable, irreducible value. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, that's the Tao. That's what we mean when we talk about the Tao. So I want to give you another example of it, okay? So we're about to chant, right, our prayer that we do every week with Leonard Cohen, right, about the holy and the broken. Hallelujah. Now, where does this come from? So there's a very beautiful text which speaks of a story from one of the great ancient mystical, mythic texts in world history. And it's the story of Moshe, of Moses. And Moses, who ascends Sinai, the mountain, and one of the great mystical images of Western culture. And he ascends the mountain, the finite goes to meet the infinite. The human voice goes to hear the divine voice. Prophecy and prayer meet. The human and God, the infinite and the finite, the all-powerful and the all-poignant, right, come together. And Moses receives these tablets in the mystical image, these tablets of wisdom, these tablets of the Tao, these tablets of law, these tablets of love, Luchot Brit, the tablets of the covenant that are meant to go in the Ark of the Covenant. Think Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 25 years ago movie, the Ark of the Covenant that lived in the tabernacle in the desert and later in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. And Moses comes down the mountain and he sees that the people that had just been ecstatically open, that had just seen visions of love and spirit unlike any that had ever been seen in human history, these same people now filled with fear because he hadn't yet descended the mountain, have turned and fallen and been somehow degraded. And some have been led astray. And the mystical symbol for this being led astray, for this degradation in the story, is the golden calf, right? The golden calf meaning somehow losing their way, right? Losing their direction. And Moses shatters the tablets. And then, in a fierce contestation with infinite source, with the divine, Moses demands that he be allowed to ascend the mountain again, and that the people have a second chance, because everyone gets a second chance, and everyone gets a third chance, and everyone gets a fourth chance. It's never over. And demands from the divine a second set of tablets. The first set of tablets are broken, the broken tablets, and Moses receives a second set of whole tablets to put in the Ark of the Covenant. And then he hears a whisper of the divine voice. And in the 3rd century, the mystics in Aramaic and in Hebrew tell us what that divine whisper was. And I'll say it to you with your permission in the original language, right? The mystics say, Luchot v'shivrei luchot munachin ba'aron. The tablets and the broken tablets are both in the Ark of the Covenant. Wow. The people fell. They fell into depression. They fell into bipolar episodes. They fell into devastation. They fell into contraction, right? They fell into an inability to feel their own beauty, their own goodness, their own truth. They fell into jealousy. They fell into rage. They fell into all sorts of acting out. They fell. They broke. And yet, the text says, even that is holy. Not just the whole tablets are in the ark, but luchot v'shivrei luchot munachin ba'aron, the tablets and the broken tablets are both in the ark. And my friend Leonard Cohen received this lineage tradition. And out of this lineage tradition, he wrote the song, The Holy and the Broken Hallelujah. It doesn't matter which you heard. There's a blaze of light in every word, right? The holy and the broken hallelujah. That's where it's from. We think that it's only the good moments. We think it's when we're pretty. We think it when we're writing a great book, right? We think it's when we're showing up really well and everyone is dazzled by our goodness and by our strength and by our wisdom and our beauty. We think that's what's in the ark. No, that's not true, my friends. I was talking to someone the other day, right, who was in the midst of a deep, deep broken moment. And I said to this person, who's a dear, dear person in my life, I said, it doesn't matter to me whether you're calling me because your book just hit the New York Times bestseller list and you're getting accolades from all over the world and everyone loves you and you're calling me and I'm giving you a big congratulations and I treat you with enormous dignity and honor and love. Or you're in the state that you're now in, which is you're in your broken hallelujah. You're going to get from me the same dignity and the same love and the same knowing that you're gorgeous and that you're holy and you're broken hallelujah. Right? They're both in the Ark of the Covenant. And so I want to invite us now and feel this. This is how you know you're in the Tao. The second way of knowing you're in the Tao is knowing that your suffering is not an accident, that there's no suffering that's accidental. There's no tears that are lost. Every tear is drunk and swallowed by the infinity of intimacy. The holy and the broken, hallelujah. Right? Nothing escapes. Nothing is extra. Nothing is frivolous. Every place you've been, you needed to be. Every tragedy is not a bug in the system, it's a feature. Every fall is part of the next rising. Every destruction creates the next creation. Every break opens us up, right? Right? Can you feel that? There's a crack. There's a shattering in everything that reality has made. And that's how the light gets in. To know you're in the Tao is to know that no tear is shed in vain, that no brokenness is lost, that it's all held in dignity, that it's all part of the story, that we don't rip out pages from our book of life, and we love each other even more madly open when we're broken, and that the world is filled with broken hearts and broken vessels and broken stories and broken bodies, but there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. I want to just find with you, we're just going to touch on them, these other ways and places that we touch the Tao. We touch the Tao in knowing and feeling irreducible value. You're priceless. I can't sell you, no matter what it will bring. And the game theoretic dynamic falls away. That's the first arena of the Tao. And the Tao shows up in what I want to call traces of transcendence. Traces of transcendence. Imagine this. You have a flask. And in the flask, F-L-A-S-K, I want to make sure that that works in all languages, a flask from which you would drink, right? Or a porcelain jug from which you drink. And that porcelain jug has wine in it. So you can imagine this pottery porcelain jug, it's filled with wine. You empty the wine out. Then you wash thoroughly the jug. Then you put water in that jug and you taste the water. So friends, when you taste the water, what else do you taste? I'm going to look in the chat box. Anybody? What else do you taste? You taste, yes. What else do you taste? Friends, anybody? You taste traces of the wine, right? You taste traces of the wine. And those traces of the wine are called by the lineage masters rishamu. They're traces, they're impressions of the wine. You can't see the wine. You can't even speak the wine. You can't code the wine. You can't measure the wine, because the Tao that can be measured is not the Tao. And the Tao that can be coded is not the Tao. And the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao. And yet the wine is there, clear and unmistakable, and it changes your whole experience. The Tao. So the first place that we experience traces of transcendence is in knowing your irreducible value, in knowing your irreducible value, knowing my irreducible value, knowing I'm not going to be sold and I'm not going to be sold out, that there's an intrinsic loyalty to me, right? There's an intrinsic loyalty to me in Kosmos. There's an intrinsic loyalty to me in Kosmos. Loyalty to me in Kosmos. Wow, right? That's shocking. I can't be betrayed. I can't be sold down the river. I can't be sold out. I can't be sold, right? I have irreducible value, number one. Number two, my suffering is never in vain. My tears are never lost, never, right? That's the second experience when I realize the dignity of my suffering. Doesn't mean I need to wallow in my suffering. It doesn't need, right? I often say to my friends who ask me about suffering in my personal life, I say at a certain point, I got bored with my own suffering, right? We can let go of our own suffering, but that's only when we're ready to let go of it. But no one can tell us to let go of it. We have to hold the dignity of each other's pain, which is what the sacred text says, B'kol tzaratam lo tsar, in all of your suffering, she suffers with you. So that's the second, right, arena of the Tao. And I want to give you just two more. And it's just so beautiful, right? The third arena of the Tao is in play, in the sacredness of play. Ever watch children play? When they enter into a game and they make up new rules, and they enter into play with enormous delight and enormous gravitas and enormous seriousness. When I enter into play, right, I realize traces of eternity. That's why we watch sports events. Sports events, sadly, though, have been commodified and reduced and marketed. But actually at the core, at the center, right, of play between children, play between adults, is actually the whisper of eternity. In our sport, whether it's our love sport or our love play, whether it's athletic play, whether it's laughter, the play of laughter, but in the laughter, in the sport, and in the play is the echo of eternity. We feel the goodness of it all. We feel how it all matters beyond imagination, which is why sometimes it's when we play together that we're able actually to evolve the source code of consciousness and culture. I'd like to have an institute in which we bring all the world leaders together, and that's all of us, to actually play together. Let's play in sports and let's play in love. Let's play with our minds. Let's play with laughter. And from that place of play, let's evolve consciousness. There's a beautiful Netflix series, and there's not often anything that's worth watching on Netflix. It's actually quite sad, but occasionally something actually finds its way through. So I'm going to suggest to everyone something called The English Game, which is this wonderful Netflix series about football in England in the mid-19th century, which is originally an upper-class sport of the landed gentry. And then the textile mills, right, begin their team. And a friendship is struck by a player in the poor textile mills and a player from the upper class. And in that friendship, in their play, and their respect for the dignity of play, and their realization of their core equality in play, there's this deep evolution, social evolution, that takes place and opens up a next stage in the evolution of love. The English Game, it's beautiful. Right, so play. And finally, friends, music. When we chant, when we sing, music itself is the language of intimacy. Music itself is a trace of transcendence. So we've just listed 4 traces of transcendence. My own experience of mine and your irreducible value. Right? The experience that I never suffer alone, that my suffering is meaningful and not random. The dignity, even the holiness, right, of my holy and broken hallelujahs. All my broken hallelujahs are also holy. There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard. It's the holy and the broken hallelujah. That's the Tao. That's a trace of transcendence. And 3, the sacredness of play. And 4, the disclosed intimate universe that appears in the chords of music that move through us, sweep us, and transform us. These are rumors of angels. These are traces of transcendence. These are the Tao that cannot be spoken, but which is all around us, which suffuses us. Political will that's genuine comes from an alignment with value, and all value lives in the Tao. The value of our irreducible uniqueness, the value of our holy and broken hallelujah, the value, the intrinsic value of our play, right? The value, right? The gorgeous value of our music. These are but 4, traces of transcendence. But look all around. Drink this week. Drink from the jugs. Drink from the urns. Drink from the flasks. And feel the traces of wine, right, that are always there. Oh my God.